Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms is finally here. This is a movie that I've been very much looking forward to for a very, very long time. And so what did I think about this movie? Because there's a lot of discourse online on whether or not this movie was good. There are a lot of stupid people who think this is the worst Mortal Kombat movie. And then there are people who do like this movie. Where do I fall in line? Well, right out of the gate, I will say that this movie does have problems that are very hard to ignore this time around, as opposed to the previous time around, which was Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. Scorpion's Revenge did have problems, but they were very, very minimal to a point where I was easily able to brush them off. This movie does have problems, but are not that easy to brush off. In fact, they do bring down the movie down by a couple of points. What are those problems? Well, let's talk about it. By the way, this video will have spoilers for the movie, so if you don't want to get spoiled and haven't seen the movie, click off this video, go and watch the movie, come back and we can talk about it. I'm going to talk about the things that I didn't like about this movie first, and then I'll talk about the things that I did like about the movie, because trust me, there are a lot of great things in this movie, and things that I've wanted to see out of Mortal Kombat for over 10 years. I have two big problems with the movie. Number one is the pacing, and number two is the one being subplot. The movie is an hour and 20 minutes, and for the story that they were telling, it definitely did not fit within an hour and 20 minutes. The first 15 minutes of the movie are actually pretty well paced, and then when it gets to the first round of the Mortal Kombat 2 plot, that's when things take off like a rocket ship. Like, things go by really, really quick. The fights go by really, really quick, and it threw me off when I first saw it. When I first saw it, I was like, ooh. This is going by really, really fast for me. At the same time, the Scorpion and the Kamidogu subplot and with Sub-Zero's subplot, it kind of intertwines with each other. That's actually pretty well paced. It just becomes unnecessary toward the very end. At the same time, the second round of the Mortal Kombat 2 tournament actually gets better in terms of pacing. The fights are a little bit longer and things happen just a little bit more in an organized way. So overall, the pacing is just all over the place. It goes fast and then it goes good and then it goes a little bit fast and then it kind of ends abruptly. And that makes this problem of the movie very hard to ignore because it's kind of just in your face all of the time. And then the second biggest issue that I have with this movie, and I think is one of the biggest problems of the movie, is the one being subplot. Basically, at the end, Shinnok gets all of the Kamidogu, merges them together, and becomes one with the one being, or just awakens the one being. And then for the last 20 minutes, there's this huge kaiju fight between Fire God Liu Kang, and Liu Kang turning into this giant dragon and fighting the one being, while everybody else is kind of like having their own fights and such. And it's just all over the place, and it was definitely unnecessary. Like, it's a big problem when you're barely in your second movie and you're already doing the one being story, where the one being is the final boss and he's bending reality and he's almost there to wipe out reality entirely. Like, that you're barely in your second movie and you're already blowing your load right now. That's a huge issue, and it's an issue that I just cannot ignore, and I just straight up don't like it at all. It really should have just ended with Scorpion taking away the Kamidogu, putting it somewhere else, him and Sub-Zero team up and imprison Shinnok somewhere else, and then you tease it for another movie. It literally could have been that simple to fix. Now, keep in mind, I thought the final battle visually, without context, was actually pretty entertaining and was pretty fun to watch. It was just straight up unnecessary, and I really wish that didn't happen, and I really wish that was possibly saved for another movie. And that's the thing. Apparently, the reason why this plot line was included in this movie was because the creators of this Mortal Kombat Legends series didn't know if they would get a third movie. And they kind of wanted to do everything that they possibly wanted to do in this movie, because you can totally tell they did everything they could to try to make everything fit, but unfortunately, not everything did. And it's a little bit weird thinking about how the last 20 minutes could have easily been fixed if, again, you just had Scorpion take the Kamidogu somewhere else, hide it, team up with Sub-Zero, imprison Shinnok, and tease Shinnok for another movie. Because if the fix is that simple and that easy, is the problem really that big of a deal? And it's weird because, yeah, the problem is pretty significant. It is pretty unnecessary, but at the same time, the solution is so simple that you question whether or not it actually is a big deal, even though it really does feel like a big deal. Because in all honesty, if you took away those 20 minutes with the awakening of the One Being and you put it into the Mortal Kombat 2 story, it actually could have been done really, really well. And again, another problem is how the MK2 story kind of moves at a fast rate, especially in the first round, mainly specifically in the first round. But if you added the 20 minutes, the entire MK2 story could have just been fine. So again, the problems of the movie feel like they have easy solutions to fix the problems, and it just makes you wonder whether or not the problems are actually a big deal, but they feel like a big deal. It's just so baffling to me. It just messes with my head so much. I'm seeing the word messy as the word to describe this movie, and honestly, I think that's a pretty inappropriate term. I think unnecessary is the better term, because the only plot line that does not work is the One Being plot line. That's it. That's really the only one that doesn't work. Everything else actually works pretty decently. Not everything is perfect, but it works out pretty decently. There's a lot of people who have an issue with some characters not getting that much story to them, not getting that much screen time, and the main ones that are brought up are Jade, Li Mei, Reiko, and D'Vorah. Those characters don't have that much screen time, and there's not much to their character. But if you look at those characters have no place in a Mortal Kombat 2 story. So technically they shouldn't even be there, and the fact that they don't do much actually is what they're supposed to do when you really think about it. And some of those characters actually put up pretty good fights. Reiko's fight with Raiden is actually a pretty well done fight. D'Vorah's fight with Sonya is a pretty well done fight. And Li Mei's fight with Sonya as well is actually a pretty well done fight. They're not that long or anything, but they're pretty decent. The only one that was kind of short was Jade versus Liu Kang. But again, all of these characters don't belong in an MK2 story. So the fact that they aren't taking that much screen time, they aren't taking other roles of other characters. The only real disappointing character is Kung Lao. Kung Lao gets to do some cool things in the beginning of the movie, but then he dies by Shao Khan, and he doesn't get to interact with Liu Kang at all. That reminds me straight up of a certain movie that came out this year. Now, I'm kind of used to Kung Lao eating shit because Kung Lao has been eating shit since Mortal Kombat Deception, but I still don't like it. I really wish that Kung Lao got more screen time, or at least just didn't die. But anyways, remember how I said there are a lot of great things in this movie? Let's talk about those great things. The absolute best part about this movie is the Lin Kuei and the Cyber Initiative. They did the robots justice. They are so well done, and I absolutely love them in this movie. Also, everything to do with Sub-Zero was absolutely great, and as a Smoke fan, I'm really happy with what they did with Smoke. I'm really happy that they established Smoke's story and they did the Smoke and Sub-Zero friendship. I really, really liked that because that has been missing for so long. That has been missing since MK9, and even MK9 didn't really flesh that out in the right way, and this movie absolutely did. The way Sub-Zero and Smoke find out about the Cyber Lin Kuei with the Lin Kuei Grandmaster and such is almost exactly the same way that it probably played out in the original timeline and how it played out in my head. And Sector and Cyrax are absolute beasts in this movie. Like, they seem almost unbeatable. And that's really, really good because in MK9, they show up in their human forms and they lose fights. And so they talk about how we're gonna change into robots because that's gonna make us better, and they still lose fights as robots. In this movie, when they turn into robots, they are almost unbeatable, and they are very much established as a threat to the Sub-Zero and Scorpion subplot. Also, the Raiden and Liu Kang father-son dynamic was done absolutely well. This is probably the best Raiden that we have seen in such a long time. Christopher Lambert and Jeffrey Meek from the first 95 movie and Mortal Kombat Conquest are absolutely great Raidens. After this movie, the Mortal Kombat Legends rating goes up with them. I don't know where they rank, I'd have to think about that, but this Raiden is absolutely fantastic. I did mention there was going to be spoilers in this video, so when Raiden fights Shao Khan and Shao Khan is about to kill Raiden and he asks them any last words, when Raiden looks to Liu Kang and says, "Your parents loved you and so did I," but was interrupted before he can say, "and so did I," that was such a touching moment, something that you have never seen before and something that really should be in Mortal Kombat media from now on, and that's how Raiden should be portrayed. That was such a good moment, and it just makes me very, very thankful that the writers really did understand Raiden's character, and I'm still thinking about how great that is and how much I really like this version of Raiden. This is Raiden. This literally is how Raiden was supposed to be originally portrayed according to John Tobias. Also, speaking about Shao Kahn, everything about Shao Kahn is absolutely great. This has literally been the best Shao Kahn has ever been, literally ever, since Mortal Kombat 3. It has been so long since we have seen a really good portrayal of Shao Kahn, and I absolutely loved how they nailed Shao Kahn in this movie. He's actually established as a threat, he kicks fucking ass, and he's not this fucking yelling, mindless monster, big dumb monster guy. He actually is able to have a cohesive conversation, be civil at times, and then be ruthless when he absolutely needs to. Now, there are a couple of moments where he spares some people like Sonya and Jax. It's a little weird seeing that, but when he really needs to get shit done, he gets shit done, and I really like the way they portrayed Shao Kahn in this movie. Also, as the biggest Liu Kang fan out there, Liu Kang being my favorite character, this is Liu Kang's movie. I absolutely love what they did with Liu Kang. He was done justice, and I really, really appreciate that. My absolute favorite part about Liu Kang in this movie was when he fought Shang Tsung. He beat Shang Tsung. It looked like he was about to kill him. He didn't, and he said, "No, live with knowing I defeated you," and it wasn't even close. That was an absolutely beautiful moment for Liu Kang, and actually is something that I actually thought he would say in my head in the original timeline when he beat him in MK1. He didn't get to fight him in Scorpion's Revenge, but he got to do it here, and he got to say the thing that I always imagined he would say in my head. Absolutely perfect. All the characters that really matter in this movie are done very, very well. It's just a little disappointing how the pacing of the movie doesn't give you time to reflect on some of the biggest things that happen in this movie and some of the great things about this movie, and neither do the characters. The characters as well don't get time to reflect on those things due to the pacing of this movie. And I feel like because the pacing of the movie is so off-putting, there's a lot of people who are ignoring the absolute great things about the movie. Everything about Liu Kang is great. Everything about Raiden is great. Joel McHale as Johnny Cage is great. The Lin Kuei and the Cybers are great. Also, I forgot to mention the fights in this movie. Not all of them, but a lot of fights are really well done, especially the Liu Kang versus Shao Kahn fight. Absolutely great. So again, there's so many great things. We're just not given time to reflect on those great things, and neither do the characters in the movie. And again, that it goes back to one of the biggest problems of the movie, and that is the pacing. The movie does have problems that are hard to ignore, but I'm not going to let those problems make me ignore the good things about this movie, because again, those good things are done absolutely well, and things that I've been wanting to see in a Mortal Kombat movie for over 10 years. We haven't got a Smoke and Sub-Zero friendship story in such a long time. We have not seen Cyber Smoke in such a long time. We haven't seen a good Shao Kahn in such a long time. We haven't seen a good Raiden in such a long time. There are so many things in this movie, guys, that you really need to think about how great they are. And I really hope Jeremy Adams, Rick Morales, and the creators of the Mortal Kombat Legends universe and movies watch this review and kind of take my criticisms into account, because trust me, I want the best for Mortal Kombat, but I don't want to see big problems like this in future movies. I really wish that we can get very good movies with very minimal problems. We're always going to have problems. There are always going to be things that people don't like. There will always be personal preferences for me, but we should always strive for the best, right? We should always try to make the best movie possible. And I still feel like these writers and these creators did try to make the best movie possible. I just feel like some choices were right and some choices were wrong. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms a 7 out of 10. If there's anything I really want to see in terms of the future of Mortal Kombat Legends, I really want to see this turn into a TV series on HBO Max or something like that. I really feel like if you have the creative team behind the Mortal Kombat Legends movies onto a TV show, they will do wonders for the Mortal Kombat universe, because with a TV show, they have the time to flesh out the things that we wanted to see flesh out. So I am calling on all of my viewers, please support Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms. Buy it on digital, buy it on Blu-ray, or buy it on both. I know I did. I got the Steelbook and I have it on digital. The only way we're gonna get more of these, and possibly maybe a TV show with these creators if they decide to go this way, is if we show our support and we show that we really want to see more from them. We have just got to demand that if they make a third movie, that it be longer, or they switch over to a TV series. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a big thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this movie. That's gonna be it for me, folks. Have a good one.